What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And we've got one that is going to be fun and exciting, and hopefully, you're going to learn something. We're going to talk a little bit about some fishing, talk about some doing some hunting since it's right around the corner. And we're going to just have fun, just hang out. Uh, but with that being said, let's handle some business real quick. You ready to hook into some serious bass? Grab Bruiser Baits, the tournament proven soft plastic and hard plastic baits that put fish in the boats every time. Bruiser Baits, fish the best. Get yours today at bruiserbaits.com and use discount code DeckTalk10. And make sure you send us some pictures of the big old bass that you catch with those with the baits. But with that being said, I'm Colin Burnett.
Nah, Pappy J. It's good to see everybody out there. How's everybody doing? I can't, man. I'm excited about this one right here for real. I mean, I know I'm a big time fisherman, but boy, I love my woods. I love my woods.
Yeah. So, but I want to everybody. I want to introduce Brandon Dowdy with Southern Woods and Waters TV show out of Nashville, Tennessee. And Brandon, thank you so much, brother, for coming on, man.
It's great to be here. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time now, and I don't often get to be the guest. I'm usually the one sitting there asking the questions and pressing people all the time. So
Right.
Right, right.
it's a little different to be on this side of things, but it's great to be here.
Yeah, and it is different. We've been on that side, and it's to me um, it's kind of eye opening. It's a different feeling for sure about being on that other end of the questions. So
It
Yeah.
is. It's
so
not always as easy to keep those questions flowing as people think either.
no,
Wait,
Right.
well,
Right.
saying
wait
and
either.
that's one thing, like with having uh two things, and which with doing the TV show, you got so much stuff that we're trying to watch and trying to make sure when people ask questions over here that we keep up and we ask the questions and stuff, and so with Pappy and all, I mean he we just kind of mash together, and he knows when he can. I don't know how in the world he tells, but he just rolls with it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about uh, the Southern Woods and Water?
Yeah, sure. It's actually we've been a mainstay here in Nashville now for over 25 years, and it's there. We had a predecessor show prior to that. Actually, it was on over on PBS that some of the guys came over to our show from. But nonetheless, Southern Woods and Waters started out at News Channel 5 Plus. They're at News Channel 5 studios in Nashville. Um, and throughout those years, when it was first started, it was a gentleman named Hugh McNaughton, who was a avid outdoorsman who moved here from Texas. Actually, he was a guide in Texas for many years and moved here. And I met him at an early age through the archery, ASA archery tour. I
Oh,
traveled
cool.
all over the place as a kid shooting and got to knowing him then. But Hugh and his wife Joy started that show, like I say, over 25 years ago, and he hosted that show for 20 years. He hosted us for that long, and I came in 2017. I'm just about at 10 years now, but I came in originally as his co-host to co-host until he retired, which he was going to do at the 20-year mark. And so I came in and I co-hosted with him for about a year and a half, a little longer than that, I guess. And then I took over as the host after that, and I've done it ever since. We're live for many years. We're live every Thursday night, and then just actually in the past few months, we have got a new contract and a new station. Channel 5 has actually started a whole new station and done all sorts of things as they partnered up with the Nashville Predators, and we've been very blessed to be a part of that. And so now we're also on what's called the Spot Nashville 28, which is a brand new station that they have just put out, regional station. And so we air there also. And now we're on Friday nights at 8 o'clock, and Saturday mornings at 10. But we air there, and then News Channel 5 website, and we're on all your social media places. We've got Facebook. You can go watch through links on there, and we've got a YouTube channel. And Channel 5's got a YouTube channel where they put our show. So just a lot of different avenues out there. But what we are is a variety outdoor show, is what I would call it. We have something for everyone. We might be fishing for bluegill from the bank. We might be bass fishing. We might be sauger and walleye fishing in the snow. We might be deer hunting, turkey hunting, chasing beagles after rabbits. It's just there is something for everyone. We cover all facets of the outdoors, and have done that for a long time. And that our following is very strong, especially locally. But here over the last few years, it's grown quite a bit. On a lot broader scale. But
Well,
Yeah,
I got a question about that too as well, because when I first started my YouTube channel, it was strictly hunting, but then I kind of, Colin and I, we got together and started doing, the whole fishing thing, and I also started integrating fishing in
yeah,
my YouTube channel, and I noticed that I was gaining a lot of followers, and, because you know how it goes sometimes. It's people, they kind of want either one or the other. I mean, I know I used to be, when I was just nothing but fishing. That's all I wanted, was just fish, fish, fish. But now I'm
yeah,
kind of like, I want it all. I want to get integrated in all of it, because the more I can learn, the better off I'm gonna be. But
right.
I
It
did see a challenge there. So how was it kind of and I know y'all go beyond just hunting and fishing. I mean, just besides deer and fish, but was it a challenge for you guys to do that?
to start getting into some of the other films,
Right,
I
right.
might say. Um, I don't know that it was necessarily a challenge. Now there are some things that are much tougher to film than others.
Right.
So I mean, we are live on set, so I have guests on set with me. It might be a TWRA commissioner or a fishing guide, whoever it may be that week. But my point
Mhm.
is, we also film two segments in each week's show, or most week's shows, out in the
Right.
field. So we're out there, fighting the elements and things, trying to get films done. And so yeah, I'll say that number one, making a fishing film, in many cases, can be a lot tougher than a hunting film, actually.
Mhm.
And it usually requires a producer, whereas a lot of our hunting films we do self filmed. I have
Mhm.
self filmed many deer and turkey hunts, and
Yeah.
and then I like to film other people too. I enjoy the film as much as I do the hunting.
Yeah.
Um, but nonetheless, some things like fishing can be a challenge to get filmed. For example, the last couple of months, over the last few months, I do a lot of fishing at night on Center
Mhm.
Hill Lake in Dale Hollow. Well, it's a challenge to film at night. It's tough to
Yeah.
do. So we ended up. I've got one of our field producers that has an infrared lighting set up, and that's about the only way we have found that we can do it.
Right.
There are definitely challenges, and then just keeping. We're always looking for local experts, so to speak. So,
Mhm.
um, just keeping people that keep some of these older traditions going for some shows, like rabbit dogs, for example. I have
Right.
been on beagles my whole life, but there are not that many beagle handlers out there anymore. Trappers
Really?
have a hard time sometimes getting professional trappers. People that know what they're doing in the trapping business anymore.
Yeah.
So there can be challenges in that sense. As far as keeping content going, we don't really have much issue with that because of the fact that, and I tell people this all the time, we're certainly not professional videographers and things like that, and we're very experienced. But we really are just carrying cameras along on our everyday lives. Is the best
Yeah.
way I can explain that. So I would be fishing on Center Hill this evening, and maybe chasing crappie on Priest, in a few days, and then putting out food plots, for my deer, the last few days. My point
Mhm.
is, we would be doing that anyway. So we're just basically
yeah,
filming what we do.
and
So
that's what.
what Now, was it a challenge or for the like your to gain all the following, or what did it just kind of just happen?
It just kind of slowly grows. Now again,
Yeah,
show has been around. Our show's been around long enough that when I came in, it was basically right at that 15-year mark. So it had
yeah,
been on television for
yeah,
15 years. Live every
Yeah.
Thursday night. However, at that point when I came in, we did not have any of the social media stuff going on. There was no in the field segments, any of
yeah,
that. That's what I
yeah.
brought with me. Was kind of that facet. And when we started adding, where it really made the biggest jump for us viewership wise, and everything just really started rolling, was when we started adding the in the field
Hmm.
video type stuff. To be honest, it
Yeah,
just took
yeah.
a different level because now instead of just talking about how we say bobber and float rig for crappies for an hour, now we're talking about it for 20 minutes of that hour and showing people for 20
Right.
minutes of for us doing it. And I think that added a lot for the entertainment aspect of it, but also for the educational side. We're always trying to teach people something, um, and so I think it really helped a lot on that with following. And then getting into the social media aspect, of course, that made a big difference too.
Hmm.
Right.
We're able to, now gain an extra, say, 70 or 80,000 on a show on Facebook or TikTok. We're starting to grow that now. It's even
Hmm.
that's newer to me, but I just feel like getting your content out to every place that people can go, because nowadays in the media industry there's so many places people can go to watch their content.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that's maybe they're just really heavily into YouTube content and they watch that a lot, well, you want to cater
Yeah.
to them. But you
Hmm.
may have, say, an older couple that doesn't do any of that stuff, and they sit down and watch television every night. So we catch them on the cable channel and things like that.
Right.
So
Right.
I just think it helps us reach a wider variety of people that way.
And it's
Right.
interesting you say that about the like the outdoor content, the like I guess kind of like in the moment content. Because a couple years back, I was doing like a series of in the tree. I would call it in the tree, and I would sit up on a I don't know, a funnel or a trail or on the edge of a field, and I made sure I done something different each day that I was out, and it seemed like I got a lot of views and a lot of content, or not I mean, obviously a lot of content, but a lot of subscribers because of that reason. Instead of just out here, making content and posting it, I was actually in the moment, I guess you could say. That's interesting you say that.
It makes a big difference showing your human side. Number one, um,
Yeah.
we show misses, we show dropped fish, we show broken lines. I mean, point is that adds a lot to it. Just being yourself. We don't over edit. We don't whatever happens happens. If we
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
duck
Yeah.
that day and the birds don't really fly, we're going to film a bunch of barbecuing and eating and sitting around having a big time. That's just what we're going to show. It's just
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
that's how it really is. But I think that it makes a big difference. Making sure that you offer that for everyone.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
do you at least have a good net man? Because my net man is kind of iffy.
So
Oh,
I got
here we
the
go.
best net men in all the country. So my buddy Dayton Blair, he's my co-host. He would normally be here with me right now, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact. But Dayton is he's there. His wife's had some medical issues and things, and they've been really tied up lately. But he is known as one of the top net men in the area, and has coined the phrase "get the net." And I think we've got it on just about everything we put out there. But it's hard to find a good net man. My 11-year-old son is moving on up in the ranks pretty darn good. He's getting pretty good, but he's got me pretty trained now. I'm getting the net for him most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you would think after all these years that you wouldn't speak any kind of anything against your partner, because if the partner's the net man, he could really sabotage
He
somebody.
can run your
Y-
day quick.
Oh,
exactly. So
And we've been known to do that to one
he
another.
he can't sabotage any more than what he's already has. So,
It does. It does
so,
happen.
but
I, hit on just one other thing real fast about what you mentioned when you were doing those videos and you felt like you were getting a lot of views on that.
Mhm.
One thing else that I have noticed, at least this is my thoughts on this, but
Mhm.
there are a lot more people out there that are eager to learn about the outdoors, okay, and what's going on, than what will admit it. Because they get on a lot of these social media sites, these deer hunting sites, these fishing sites, and they ask, every once in a while they might get brave enough to ask a simple question.
Yeah.
And y'all know how that can go a lot of times. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of adults even that are extremely interested in learning how to fish or how to provide their
Mhm.
own game meat and things like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like when we produce things that is educational that we may take for granted, we may just think, oh well, of course I was hunting the wind, when I shot
Mhm.
that buck. Well, to someone else, I don't care if they're 13 or 35, it doesn't matter. They might not have a clue about that, and they're
Oh, I'm
looking
glad you said it.
for
Yes.
direction,
Yes.
but there's not many people putting that type of direction out there. There
Mhm.
and they're really looking for that kind of stuff. They can watch
Yes.
someone catch a crappie all day long in the summertime, but how
Mhm.
many people are going to tell them how they did it?
You're
Yeah.
right.
That's what they're after a lot of times, because it's just assumed that, oh, this guy's 35, 40 years old, he already knows how to tie a fishing knot. Well, he may
Yeah.
not. He
Mm-mm.
may not have
Yeah.
a clue, and he might really want to know.
Yeah,
Well,
and that
the biggest misconception is if you don't know and you got to ask to know, but
Yeah,
we're as humans we're so prideful
that's right.
and especially men. I mean, we're just it's like,
Absolutely.
we're supposed to know, right? But there's a lot of and it's okay not to know. I mean, it's okay not to know and it's okay to ask questions because if anybody asks me a question, I'll tell them, and me and Collins had many of conversations about hunting and fishing and we've just indulged and just throw stuff back at each other and learn from each other, and then that's okay. I mean, heck, I'm 50 years old and I'm still learning
I learn
to
something
this
new all the
day.
time.
yeah.
Exactly.
I get out and do
Exactly.
this stuff, all the time, and it's still something to be learned just about every trip. If
Yeah.
you're willing to learn and got an open mind to learn, and you'll learn something new.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
but that prideful thing you mentioned, I mean, I think that's big too. I think a lot of times
Yeah.
they don't want to go on the fishing page with 10,000 experienced fishermen and ask why black and blue works better than chartreuse on a certain day or something. You know what I mean? They don't
Exactly.
ask
Yeah.
because they feel like they're
Well,
just
the
going to.
thing is, and you tell somebody, they ask like, what color Cinco should I throw? And you're like, you need a black and blue or a green pumpkin. You can go anywhere in the country with a black and blue and a
Mhm.
green pumpkin and catch fish anywhere in the country and with those two colors, and you can
Yep.
go catch fish.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Green pumpkin is one. I've got a green pumpkin in every bait I throw, pretty much. That is a
Yep.
universal
Yeah,
color for sure.
It
yeah.
truly is. It truly is.
But we get the question quite a bit of like people wanting to know because we do media work and stuff for Bassmasters and MLF, and people will come to us and ask like, "How did you get started?" And it's like we just done it. I mean, and they're like, "Well, do I need to go get a $300 camera or whatever?" And like, I tell them, "What you have in your pocket and you talk on the phone and you're texting and doing what you do have that phone has just a good enough camera to get you
Yep.
started
Yeah,
and you can do everything you need to do with that phone
yeah.
and but the hardest thing is doing that first video. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah, getting started is, of course, the toughest thing for anyone. And so I started when I was 14. The first hunting video I ever produced, quote unquote, we'll call it produced. I was 14. A buddy of mine filmed me shooting a doe with a muzzleloader, and I thought I was Michael Waddell. You know what I mean? It was on then. So they let me show it in my high school ag class, and I showed it in my ag class there in high school, and that was it. For me, from then on,
You
uh,
sold.
we were producing content. My brother and I were going around and filming things, but just like many people that are getting started, we started over the years, we'd have all this content. We didn't know what we was going to do with it. You didn't have YouTube and things like that. Even at the time, was not nothing around, so you didn't really know what to do with it. So I think that's part of it. Is a lot of people have loads and loads of videos, and they just don't know. Well, what am I going to do with these now? Now we have YouTube, some of these other platforms where they can put them out there. But the most intimidating part is the editing side, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of out there. Make that a lot easier now than it used to be. But I think that's a lot of it, and just how to get it out there. And I dreamed my whole life of doing, working in the outdoor television industry, and it just one door after another opened, and the good Lord took care of me. Is all I can say. I did nothing to end up doing what I'm doing, other than just I originally started being a guest because I had a friendship with Hugh from when I was younger, and I had gotten a degree in wildlife management, and he had me start coming in and doing shows with him about deer management on smaller properties and things like that, and it just kind of went from there. But it really and truly, it was determination and just staying after it too a lot. And don't listen to any naysayers, because they're going to be out there. There'll be plenty of them. You can't worry about that. You just have to do your thing and put it out there. But you're right about it just drives some of these film producers we have. It just kills them that we'll put a show together and half of it's filmed with their $10,000 camera and half of it's filmed with my iPhone. That's just how it works.
Well, you know what? Yeah. You know what's funny is all my hunts that I've probably done a couple of hunts with a GoPro, and I found it to be more difficult with a GoPro than it is my own phone. Because I mean,
and sound quality is not as good either.
Exactly. I mean, I can take my phone out there,
but it's still not as good as an iPhone.
Right. I can take my phone, pull it out of my pocket, and put my, hook my stuff up to my stand, and I'm good to go. I mean, and it's recording for me, and I can transfer all that stuff, do all my editing if I need to do it, and I mean, that's about all I do now.
A lot of times when I get B-roll clips on my phone, I'll just take and from my phone share them right then to a certain like Google Drive folder. On my phone. When I get back to the office, they're literally the clips are sitting there in my Google Drive folder,
ready to go.
Ready to pull that and start going.
If I had a good cameraman, I wouldn't have to worry about none of that. But
that's the toughest thing to find.
Kind of like a net man, right?
Everybody's a cameraman until the fish start biting.
Oh yeah,
right.
So you gotta have a good cameraman that can got some self control.
Well, Brandon, his problem is he's wanting me to get up in the tree stand with him, and he only has a single man stand.
Well, he'd have a harder time with me even than that, because I won't get in a tree stand. I don't know.
So, I kind of want to, because with growing up in Nashville, and which my dad, he commented on here, and he said Bill J and Bill Clay hosted Woods and Waters on News Channel 5 when he was a kid, which that was a few moons ago.
That was the predecessors I was mentioning earlier. But I believe he would probably have been watching them on PBS.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say he's incorrect, because it may be that they were at one point at Channel 5, but I know that they were at PBS as well with Jimmy Holt.
Yeah, well, see, and I remember, in which that was what he was saying. He said in there, Jimmy Holt, and we went and done an episode at the Bassmaster's office, and I found out then that Jimmy Holt was on the very first Bassmaster magazine. And so, but
one of the first classics right here on Percy Priest Lake. So it was right here around Nashville. One of the early classics was. Jimmy was one of the, how you have your idols growing up as a kid. Well, he was definitely one of mine. And I was blessed to be around him a lot, because he was kind of married into my family. He was married to my aunt's sister at one point in time.
Right.
I got to go, walk around with him a lot at outdoor expos and things when I was growing up and do stuff, be around him a little anyhow on a personal level. And he was just, he was a great outdoor personality. He knew the outdoors so well, and he was good at what he did. And people just loved him. Just everybody loved Jimmy. That's just how he was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I never got to hang around him. I got to meet him. I think we've ran into him a couple times, like 2 or 3 times while we were in Nashville. But that's when I think of like childhood fishing, growing up watching fishing and hunting and stuff like that. Jimmy Holt was one of the very first, and then of course Bill Rowland and Jimmy Houston as well.
Yeah.
And so, but we but talking about Bill and kind of going back to what you were saying with the editing, we had Bill Dance on this past year for our Christmas episode, and he was telling us like he done all when it first started, he done all his video and all of his editing, and he was telling us where he had to take the tapes, cut the tapes, and
Yeah.
splice them together to be able to edit the whatever video that he was working on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure glad that we don't have to do that now. Because
Amen to that.
so
I started out filming in those times, but never was able to attain the equipment to edit that way. So
right,
until it was digital, I didn't really do any editing. But a lot of people don't know that what he's talking about, that's where the term cut comes from.
right,
Cut the footage where they used to have
Yeah.
to literally cut the
literally
footage.
cut it right.
And I can't imagine. I'm glad I was beyond those days before I got to get into what I did.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do that.
So
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing that Colin and I have been trying to work on is my editing skills. And when I'm like, dude, it's so I just want to film. That's all I want to do. I just want to film, hunt, and fish, and so I've tried the editing. I mean, I've gotten better at it, but it is tough, man. It truly is tough.
time.
It takes so much time, and I'm actually I still edit every film we do. If it's in the film, I edit it. I do have a guy now that works with us, Casey Neighbors. He's on quite a few of our episodes now. If he does an in the field episode for us, he edits it for us. But he's the first person that's ever done that. So
Mhm.
I've done all the editing. On I guess now about 550 shows
Oh
for
wow.
for our in the field stuff for
Yeah.
Channel 5.
That's awesome.
And it's it used to, sorry guys, that something pop up on my screen there. It used to say take 8 hours. And
Mhm.
that people don't, it's so misconstrued sometimes, but so we would need to come up with an 8 to 10 minute segment. So let's call it a 10-minute segment. I went out and I filmed this crappie show. I was so excited. I was ready to go back and edit it. So I had this new program and I was going to figure it out. So I don't know what the actual time on it was before I ever got done with that video, but I'm going to say it was somewhere between 8 and 10 hours of actually sitting there trying to put this video together, which I mean didn't work out great, but I got to put it together, right? Well, now I could have taken that same footage and taken edited it depending on how it's filmed. You will learn
Mhm.
to film to edit. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain that term to anyone who hasn't done it, but you will learn to film to edit.
Yeah.
But now I can take that video if it's laid out right, and in 30 minutes I can have it put it together and ready to put it on TV.
Yeah.
So it's just with time, like anything else. You get better and better at it and learn the processes of it. A lot of editing is learning the processes of the edit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And once you get those down, you can get better at it. But you will also film to edit, meaning you will learn to film while making it easier for yourself to edit it. And you just learn how to do that over time.
Right. Right.
Well, we got a question that says, with going from hunting to fishing, how are you able to stay on top of like the fish movement with going back and forth like that?
Okay, that's a great question. So the answer to that, in my case, here with the show is, we have got 11 different field producers. Okay, so I've got some that don't do anything but bass fish. I've got one that's a hybrid guide. I've got one that's a crappie guide. I've got some guys that do wildlife management, property management, things like that. But my point is, I'm always plugged in for that reason. Now, I might be tied up doing food plots for 2 weeks, and I don't know what's going on at Center Hill, but there's
Right.
3 or 4 people that have been there 7 to 10 times in those 2 weeks and can tell me everything.
Yeah.
So we keep locked in by always being in touch with people on different lakes, different waterways. Now, if you were doing it on a personal level, it would be hard to stay on
Yeah.
top of fish movement, while
Mhm.
bouncing around and doing so many things like we do. But in our case with the show, I do it because I have so many different eyes and ears out there every day that are doing different
Yeah.
things in the outdoor world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's because we do. I mean, we're out on the water all the time, and even with this, the bid that we're on now, like we've seen, like our time on the water has not been as much as what it was the bid before, but we're still out. But
Yeah,
even missing the few days a week that we were doing, or the like, because we were going out 4 or 5 times a week, and now we're a couple of days off of that, and even not being out that, or with the time frame that we're at, we're still, I mean, we're on some fish, but we're it takes a minute for us to kind of, all right, where they were right here,
yeah,
and a lot of times when they're making that transition, we might be a day behind them or something like that as they're trying to make that
yeah.
transition.
And now with hunting coming up, I'm fixing to really start focusing on hunting and getting stuff prepared and ready and through that and trying to get some stuff, content and stuff like that. So that also takes away from it, but it's part of it. It's just
Yeah.
part of it.
So
One thing I would say too on that. Now I'm a big time crappie fisherman. I
Mhm.
fish for anything that swims, but I love to chase crappie.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm catching crappie on historical spots. So in other
Mhm.
words, I'm not.
Yeah.
I may not have been out there for the last week or two, but I know that on the say I just example. Let's say the third week of April, that the fish are going to be on this particular bank in the afternoons, and you can catch them from the bank, and I already know that. So
Mhm.
I'm a lot of times using historical data with species like crappie, white
yeah,
bass, things like that. You can use historical data and kind of you can count on them to come back in the same areas at the same time, even
right,
in the summer. A lot of
yeah.
times right now on the same times I find them on every year. So I do use historical data to add to that, but that and just staying plugged in to locals.
Now
So is
that's something that Colin and I we do that. We do use a lot of historical data and a lot of go to here and stuff like that and we'll use our resources as well. But that it's interesting you say that because we that's one thing that we do is a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
historical stuff.
So summertime crappie. Usually, if I'm fishing for crappie and stuff, I will do some summertime, but most of the time it's that fall, winter time
yeah,
when I will do a lot of crappie fishing. So they're like bass, they'll come up for spawn, and then they'll work their ways back out to the deeper water, to the ledges and stuff. Do crappie move? Because I know wintertime we will catch crappie, and I mean dirt, shallow water, and
yeah.
but summertime, are they tend to be in like that? I mean, around here I see them in between like 20 to 25 foot. Is
They they can be. It depends on the waterway, of course. So like,
right?
I'm talking about Center Hill Lake. Yes, they're going to be 20 to 25 feet deep.
Yeah,
If I'm talking about Old Hickory Lake, they're going to be 12 to 15 foot deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, but they do move out. They don't move as far as people think they do a lot of times from where you were finding them in the spring and winter. But they do certainly move. Yes, they'll
yeah,
move and usually just be sitting on. If you were catching them up there, I always say so shallow they can get ticks on their back.
Yeah.
If you were catching, and a lot of fish were in that area, and there's let's say a creek channel 100 yards out in front of that, most likely you're going to find most of those fish out there along that channel in 12 to 15 foot of water, stationed over top of trees.
Yeah.
That's where you usually find them in the summer. Now they're a lot more finicky then, also. So if
Right.
you're you might cast into a tree 10 or 12 times, catch 3 or 4 fish. You're not catching any more. There's liable to be 100 of them down there, but
Oh
you've
yeah.
done caught the 3 or 4 that are going to eat. And so you want to move to the next stump and move to the next stump. So in summer, it's a lot more important with crappie to keep moving to the next stump, so
Right.
to
That's what I
speak.
was about to ask. So in the summertime, you're hopping more to different
Yes, for
spots
sure.
than you would, because I know in the wintertime you could sit on, like, let's just say you're sitting on a dock and you can shoot a jig up underneath that dock and you can pull
Yeah.
out 30, 40 of them out from underneath that dock. And
That's how it usually is in the spring and the winter, just like that. But in the
yeah.
summer, I mean, it changes. They're just more sporadic. Now, guys that have these, like electronics and things where they can look down there at them, they'll describe that. You'll hear people saying nowadays, well, there was 30 down there, but they wouldn't bite.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept. They're just literally seeing them, whereas I just know I've
Right.
thrown 20 times at that stump. I caught 3 fish. I've thrown it 14, 15 more times. I ain't caught a fish. I'm moving.
All
I'm
right.
not going to sit there and keep catching the stump because it don't matter to me in my mind whether I don't have to see them, because in my mind I don't care if there's 1,000 of them down there. If I've
Yeah.
caught the 4 or 5 that's going to bite, I'm going to the next fish. That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
how I use it.
Now what about like bluegill fishing? If somebody's trying, because like I grew up on Old Hickory. I mean, we lived less than a mile away from Cedar Creek, and so,
Uh huh.
but we would always put in at Cedar Creek and then uh, head towards or would head south, and so, and I can't remember the name. I think it was it. I can't remember the name of it right off. But I mean, when I was there, there was no houses. But then now I went back here a couple, I guess probably 6 to 8 years ago, and now there's houses everywhere up on that whole bluff. That if you're leaving from Cedar Creek, head back out to the main channel and take a left and head towards Johnny Cash's old house. And there's a big old bluff that's on that left hand side. Uh, I'm trying to think. That's where we would go and do a lot of fishing off right there if we were going to catch some bluegill and stuff. Um, did I lose him?
Oh no. But I'm definitely lost on that one.
Yeah. Well, I thought that it did. I wonder if he got a phone call.
Guys, I moved for a minute because I was afraid that I thought I had lost you.
Let's see.
I'm still here, everybody.
There he is.
There
There he
he is.
is.
I thought I had lost you. My screen went off, and I thought, man, I don't know how I lost him. I was afraid I disconnected from the Wi-Fi. I'm going to
Yeah.
grab this booster cord and make sure it wasn't me, but we have excellent Wi-Fi, so I apologize to everyone. I don't know why that just happened.
Oh,
No,
you're good.
it's technology, man. That's all it
You
is.
love it until you don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
So how, like, if you're going to, like, let's say you got some kids and stuff that you're wanting to be able to, I mean, for me, if I have a kid on, I just want to be on my boat. I want to be able to just put them on some fish. And I
Uh-huh.
know I could go crappie fishing or I could go bluegill fishing. So if you're wanting to target bluegill fishing, what are you targeting in the summertime to be able to catch for the, like, to where you're consistently catching some bluegill?
Well, if you're somewhere that's got like some grass lines around, that's going to be one of your better options with bluegill if
Right.
you've got some grass. But also they're a lot like a crappie in the sense of they're going to be in and around brush most of the time.
Yeah.
Early in the morning, they'll feed a lot, and you can keep kids on them year round. I mean, you can keep
Yeah.
on bluegill. Now, you're not going to catch those the big slab bluegill as much in the summer if you're fishing shallow.
Right.
A lot of those bigger fish will get out to deeper submerged structure, just like a crappie will, and a shell cracker will for sure. Shell cracker
Yeah.
likes deeper water. So if you're familiar with old hickory, you know what shell cracker are, and that is one of our very favorite species to chase every year,
Yeah.
and probably one of our most popular shows every year.
And that's because I think we have them here on Chickamauga.
We do. We
Uh,
do.
but I
Probably.
don't. I have not gone to just to target some shell crackers, but for sure they are.
Now
They're
I will tell you, Colin, you can catch a lot of shell cracker out of like Chickamauga creeks or creek and
yeah.
stuff like
I
that.
would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is about the creek because we used to catch a ton of them when I was a kid. I mean, we'd go set up on a bank and just absolutely wear the foreheads out, whether it be bluegill,
Yeah.
brim, shell cracker. It didn't matter. I mean, just tons of them all the time.
Yeah.
The shell cracker come up. So, just speaking Old Hickory Lake directly now, I mean, I'm sure
Hmm.
it's similar on most, but on Old Hickory Lake, you're going to get a movement on those about the middle of April,
Yeah.
and they move up extremely shallow. So they
Yeah.
come up, like you said a while ago. I mean, they are on the bank. I have seen shellcracker beds where you could literally see their fin flushing the
Mhm.
water around in the beds,
Crazy.
and you can get those from about mid-April until about mid-May, just like
Mm.
that in that shallow water. But you've
Yeah.
got those 4 to 6 weeks, and they are going right back into a channel somewhere.
Yeah.
Then your best chance on them is like right in the middle of a creek channel, with a little split shot and a little piece of night crawler,
Yeah.
rather than being in the brush. But
Yeah.
for those 4 to 6 weeks, they are a blast. There's probably not anything more fun to catch or good to eat as
Oh
those
my.
big, thick shell crackers. It's just
Now.
you have such a small period
We
of time.
used to take a little open face. We're not really ultralight, but I guess you could call it ultralight. And we would just do away with a split shot, but we'd just take a little hook, little brim hook, throw a little worm
Mhm.
on it, throw it out there, and just let it drift and sink at the same time. And man, out in just on the outside of the current. Oh,
Yeah,
son, it was. I mean,
they'll wear
but
it out. And
oh
I actually
yeah,
fish without a split shot under the float. Now, when we're catching them up on the banks, I'm using a float
yeah,
Yeah.
and just a little lightweight float and a
hmm,
hook, and that
yep,
is it, and a little piece of night crawler.
yeah,
And you just throw it in those beds, and if it lands in one of those beds, he is eating it. Like, it's not a question as to whether they're going to bite it. They are going
right,
to bite it every
right.
time.
So when
And
they
it's a lot of
spawn,
fun. But like I say, the bluegill, you can catch them year round.
Yeah.
right?
You just need to stay on brush. They've got to survive, and they can't survive out in the wide open. They'll get
Yeah.
eaten.
Oh,
Yeah.
So a lot of
yeah.
times they're gonna stay closer to brush.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Uh,
that was something else we'd do. We'd be on the bank and Chickamauga Creek, and we would throw up. If it was a blowdown or something like that, we just throw it right up against the bank, in between the bank and the blowdown. I mean, we'd wear them little bluegills out, and it was so much
Yeah,
fun. Gosh, it was so much
it
fun.
is. I still love it. I
Yeah.
fish for bluegill every May, especially. There's a few different mouths of creeks I like to go to. You're looking for a nice muddy bottom for them. So it's a
Hmm.
lot of times where a creek feeds into another creek or something along those lines where you find
Yeah.
that old muddy bank down in there. But it's a lot of fun. I still love it. Again, I like to fish for everything that swims. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. If it's jerking on the other end of my line, I'm happy with it.
yeah. My dad always says that he's one jerk waiting on another jerk. So,
Yeah, just waiting on another one. That's right. I mean, that's
so
how I am. I might be smallmouth fishing, trout fishing, striper fishing, whatever. It just whatever it
Yeah.
is. Fish are very. I don't necessarily want to say seasonal, but for the most part, I'm going to be fishing sauger and walleye. Then I'm going to move into crappie. And then I'm going to move into shell cracker. And then I'm going to start catching bass. And then I'm going to start catching my rockfish. And then I'm going to go right into summer like nighttime bass. And then we'll go right back into fall crappie. But
Yeah.
the point is, it is very trendy, so to speak, if you chase all the different species rather than just chase one species all the time, which some people do that too.
Yeah, well, that's mainly us. With being where we live, it's kind of hard not to go after bass with having Chickamauga, Nickajack, and Gunnersville right at our back door. So when you have, well, I was going to say you have two of the biggest bass factories in the United States, but the state record, Tennessee state record, just got caught out here this past year out of Nickajack, and so and which we've gone and we've caught big bass on Nickajack, but we used to tell people that it's the hidden gem because people see Chickamauga, they see Gunnersville, and they just left Nickajack alone until the Bass Pro Tour came and kind of showed off what Nickajack can do. And so if you wanted to go catch
excellent waterway.
Yeah, if you wanted to go catch some smallmouth, you can catch good sized smallmouth on the north end. But if you wanted to go catch some big green ones, you can head to the grass on that south end and just have a blast. So
Nickajack is a top end fishery, and like you say, a lot of people don't think about it because of Chickamauga. But we of course we fished all over the state. I've been blessed to be able to do that and fish just about any water you can get in. But some of the most fun I've had and bass wise and tournament wise has been following around the Bass Nation. The high school kids, we've covered all kinds of their tournaments, and we've done multiples on Nickajack and Chickamauga. But I tell people that the best topwater show that I've ever filmed, I filmed on a June morning on Chickamauga on accident. I wasn't even heading out that day to film a fishing show, but we had the kids had blasted off, and we were in my boat. We would usually go out, we'd run them down after a little while and start interviewing them, asking them questions and things. And we had kids had launched out. And we took off. And as a matter of fact, this happened to be at that time the first day I'd ever been on Chickamauga. Never been on it. And we took off out of there, and we were riding down the river channel, and I was seeing all of these just beautiful grass beds. Like it's just to a bass fisherman, it's like riding through bass heaven down there. And I'm seeing all these grass flats and things like that, and no boats in them. And I keep on going down, and I started finding all the kids. They were sitting out on the channels. They were fishing to fish deep out there in the channels, which is fine. That's what a lot of them do now. But I told my camera guy that was with me, I said, look, these kids ain't caught any fish yet. They just got out of here. I said, we're fixing to turn around and go back to them grass flats, and I'm tying on a frog, and it's game on, So I did. I went back and tied on a topwater, and we sat there and filmed. I don't know how many fish we actually caught, but made the best topwater film I ever made. And I did not even head out that day to make a film. Chickamauga is it's also just a very special lake, of course.
It definitely is.
Well, we got one of our sponsors, Firefly Outdoor Marines, Chad Watts, the owner. He was telling me that I need to go to Center Hill at the beginning of April and start throwing like a spook with a junior. And he said just throw a small top water spook. And he says there's nothing else that's funner than throwing a top water and having smallmouth just come up and just destroy it. And so
they're like rockets, and they come up there. And now I've not done this on Center Hill. I fished top water before, but we went to Del Hollow one day. This has been a couple years ago. Wally Kilpatrick called me, and he said, "Man, we're on a good topwater bite up here on Del Hollow. We ought to film a show." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll come on up there and meet you." Well, Wally's got, he's got live scope and all that stuff on his boat, and we were filming with him that day. We were on the boat with him, and so we were watching these smallmouth. Our boat was positioned in 60 foot of water, I would say on average, and we were actually catching these fish topwater in about about 20 foot down in say 40 foot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And when they would see that bait, you could watch them on the live scope. And when they would see that bait or hear it, really, I feel like they would just shoot up at that thing like a torpedo. And it was a blast to watch it. That's one of the most fun days I ever had looking at one of the screens, was watching those things. I mean, because y'all know when you set the hook on those big smallmouth, he's usually going to come right at you anyway.
Yeah.
So you usually know it's a smallmouth when you set the hook on him. But when we were watching that day, it was a lot of fun. But that was the first time I'd ever seen fish caught topwater in deep water like that. But he said, "Don't think I'm crazy, when we get out there." And I might have for a minute, but I sure didn't after we started, because they were nailing those topwater baits.
Now I tell you,
Colin, you know what time it is? You know what time
that?
it is? My favorite time, baby.
Oh.
We got that salute to valor. We got our salute to valor real quick. We got to do. Hey, today's salute to valor. We want to. Our salute to valor is sponsored by Waze Energy Drink. If you're feeling drained, Waze Energy Drink hits fast like our military. Lasts long, tastes clean. Waze, find your charge. Today's salute to valor is Staff Sergeant Skylar Bruh. That's what I'm gonna call her. She's in the Air Force, the 41st Missile Wing, dude. I mean, this chick, dude, man, she guards nuclear warheads. How bad is that? But anyways, she is based out of Montana. I'm not going to get specific location on that one, but hey, we want to salute you. Thank you for all that you do and keep us safe, and so that we can, a bunch of flunkies right here that can talk about fishing and hunting and filming and content and everything else. I mean, thank you for watching over us and protecting us and keeping us safe from enemy and everything else. We really salute you from here at Deck Talk Podcast.
Thank you so much. And
absolutely, that's amazing.
But we the best top water bite that I have ever had, I was down in the Everglades, in which Pappy, and probably everybody's heard me say this story 100 times, but going down and fishing in the Everglades, in the canals, and just throwing a whopper plopper, what is it, the 80, the smallest whopper plopper you can get, and throwing it around just the grass edges and having them peacocks just come up and just annihilate. You talking about, seeing them, the smallmouths coming up. But when a peacock hits them things, and I tell people, it sounds so vicious. It's like somebody's taking a cinder block and just chunking it down into the water is what that thing sounds like.
Yeah.
So that is my favorite. When we go down to Florida, that's one thing that we have to go and do, is go to the Everglades and get on some peacocks.
Never caught a
now,
peacock,
real quick.
Yeah,
that's something I ain't. I've never have to either, Brandon. But I would love to. But kind of switching gears real quick. Waterfowl. I've never really hunt waterfowl, but I heard that if you ever get into it, it's just like crack, man. It's so addictive. Can you talk to us a little bit about it?
Well, first off, I have to say I've been told that a lot of times too.
Okay.
But I got to be honest. I'm the person that makes that not as true, I guess, so to speak. It's not true for everyone. Put it that way.
Okay.
I got into waterfowl for a couple of years, and we'd go out there and set that stuff up at 4:30 in the morning, bust the ice and all, and see a couple ducks out here at Old Hickory or something, and then 8:30, 9 o'clock, we'd be heading to eat breakfast. So after a few years of that, we was out there picking up decoys one day, and I told my cousin, next weekend, just call me when y'all head to breakfast, and I'll meet you there, But really, one of the biggest things for that, honestly, is that around here in Middle Tennessee, it's just not great. There's not a lot of ducks here. There are still guys that are big into it. It's a good time. It's fun. I enjoy it, but it's just not a big thing in Middle Tennessee. So I always felt like it was pulling me away from my deer stand, But I have been on some great hunts. We have, of course, Real Foot here, and then a lot of West Tennessee. It's great areas, to be waterfowl hunting. And then I spend a lot of time each year fishing in Louisiana. I don't duck hunt down there, but if I was going to duck hunt, it'd probably be somewhere down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which we know a couple people that do duck hunt, and I've heard them say that Louisiana or Arkansas is usually
yep,
when they go out, that's where
Yeah.
they're going.
Yeah, I mean, here you might see 10 or 12 sitting on in the cove of a lake, and when I'm fishing Louisiana, you pull up in a little slough, and there might be 500 get up off the water.
oh wow.
Golly.
Now I've heard,
But
and well, I don't. I've had duck, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's some real good meat. I've never hunted for it, but
Yeah,
I have heard that it's very addicting.
yeah. Wood. Speaking of eating them, wood to me, wood duck is probably the best tasting. Wood duck and teal are both pretty good, and then a mallard's pretty good. Not all ducks are created equally. I'll say
Yeah,
that much. They don't all eat the same.
right,
now,
right.
have you ever gone after the sandhill cranes?
I have not. I have some friends that have. I have never tried. Maybe one of these days. I've just never really even tried to get a tag.
Yeah, which I got a cousin. He's just an outdoorsman. Like he just got back from 2 weeks hunting in Africa somewhere, and but he goes up to Canada twice a year to go after some walleye up there, and then he'll go up there and do a he'll go hunt some sandhill cranes, and he says that sandhill crane is the fillet of the sky.
They're supposed to be delicious. I've never tried one, but that's all I've ever heard too. The same thing.
Yeah, so but so I want to. We almost had you on for an hour, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But
I know frog legs are good too.
oh
They
yeah,
are.
they
They're
I
really
agree with
good.
that. I've had plenty of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
um. So with hunting season right around the corner, how are you? You've already said that like you kind of 365. You're kind of preparing for the next season and stuff. So how what are you doing now with the hunting season within what 2 to 3 weeks away?
Yeah. So right now I'm finalizing, getting all my food plots turned. There are a few places I'll plant early spring and have summer plots, but most of the time I just do food plots in the fall. So I'm still finishing turning all that, and I will plant most of those on September 1st. So and you mentioned in a few weeks, our velvet season does open in a few
I
weeks.
was fixing to
Um,
ask you about
I
that.
have never tried to hunt a velvet deer. I mean, we've been able to do
Yeah,
that here for several years. I have never got out and attempted it. One of these days, it may spark my interest, and I may. I'm not saying I won't, but I just have not. If I were to be doing that right now, I would be hunting them over the edge of one of my bean fields.
yeah,
But it's. I'm trying to get all of that done. I've already got, of course, all blinds are in place. I mentioned I don't hunt from tree stands, and I don't. I kill all my deer either from a ground blind or sitting against a tree on a dove stool. Um, so I'm mainly making sure trails are clear. I like good, clear pathways into my stands. That is big to me. I want a very quiet, easy trail to walk where I don't need a lot of light and I don't make a lot of
Hmm.
noise. I'm mainly setting that kind of stuff up. If I didn't have blinds already in place, I would already have those set up. And right now, in my opinion, should really just be kind of finalized time. We'll get that seed in the ground around the 1st of September, and then everything will just kind of rest until we get in there. I'll usually start hunting them pretty. I think the first day I hunted last year was Halloween, but a lot of times I'll hunt prior to that. It was just I was in Louisiana last year and a little
right.
behind, but I just I don't care to hunt in the heat that much. You can absolutely kill deer in it all the time, and I for many years I hunted them. I didn't care if it was 106 degrees, I'd be after them. But
Right.
I just kind of backed off on that a little bit, getting out there sweating for them. But right, it's preparation. If you want to consistently, especially like somewhere in Tennessee or something, you can consistently take good, nice, mature deer on smaller properties, with the right management plans, it takes time, and it does take. It's not something you can just go out there 2 weeks before the season and throw a camera out, and a bag of corn. And I'm not saying deer don't get shot that way. It's just it won't be as consistent. So
Yeah.
for me right now, it's just wrapping up time. And the best time to scout, if I'm getting a new piece of property to scout, I want to scout that in the absolute dead of winter as I can. I'll usually try to scout that in late January, early February.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is the best time uh to scout. But now I have a question, kind of piggybacking off what you said on like a piece of property. Now, do you have multiple stands? Let's say you're hunting a soybean field, right? Do you
Mhm.
have multiple places that you got set up for the wind, or it's
Yes.
just okay?
Yeah, if we're so depending on where I'm at, sometimes I won't use a blind. It depends. Like if I'm on a crop field, I know they're going to cut, and I
Hmm.
know I'm only going to hunt it a few times. A lot of times, I will just show up to that spot with my
Hmm.
dove stool, and I will go out and I'll kind of walk the edge of that field about where I know those deer are coming in or out, and I'll make sure get the wind right, and I'll just
Hmm.
tuck back in some privet or something and clip some brush out, and I'll sit there and hunt him. Because a lot of times with a big deer, um, you'll get that 1 2 shots at him, and that's it. So a lot of times
Hmm.
I like to use the element of surprise. But if I've got blinds set, then absolutely what you're saying, yes. I have got some food plots that have got 3 blinds on them,
Yeah,
for different reasons. Some
yeah,
of them may be set up for a certain wind, and some may be certain weather condition. It just depends.
right,
But
right.
having multiple options is imperative, really and truly,
Yeah.
in my opinion, unless you want to just have some areas or stands that you just don't hunt on the wrong wind. I'm not a sin elimination person whatsoever. Some people get a hard time about that. But I do not believe the good Lord's made a nose that could be beat by a spray. I think you have got to hunt the wind.
Yeah.
Those things all will probably help you. Don't get me wrong, absolutely will help along the way. But do whatever makes you the most confident. But playing the wind is what's going to kill the most deer. That and just time in the woods.
Yeah.
See, and I'm right there with you. Now, I do do a lot of scent, or try to. The body produces so much scent. There's no way in taking it away, right? Now,
Right.
I hunt wind. I hunt wind, but I do try to do the best I can uh, with my scent. Uh, but
Yeah.
again, I mean, the body's constantly producing so much scent that it's hard. It's
It
really
is.
hard. I mean,
Your
there's no
breath is one of the
way.
biggest things.
Exactly.
Just your
Yes.
breathing. You're
Yes.
putting out so many scent molecules every time you breathe.
Hmm.
And the thing about hunting wind, people say, well, the wind's got to be wrong somewhere. Well, it is.
Hmm.
That's the thing. If you're set up for a wind, there somewhere the wind is wrong,
Yeah.
wherever it's blowing to. So you're always going to have that blind side, so to speak, or that wrong wind side, unless you're hunting, like a cliff or something, a big drop off to the
Hmm.
lake or something like that. So what I try to do is just use whatever knowledge I have to try to ensure that
Yep.
that is the least likely way they will come from.
Yep.
Obviously, it's a deer. You
Yep.
sometimes you're just wrong. Sometimes he comes that way and you're busted.
Yeah.
That's just the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, it's a doe. But hey,
Yeah, she'll get you every time.
every time. I don't know what it is about them does, but
Yeah,
buddy, they are on top of it. But yeah, yeah, consistency in the woods, knowing your area, knowing how they travel. I will say that I'm big on early season. I have killed
yeah,
in late season, but it seems like kind of early to mid season I do a little better. It will, and especially the rut. I mean, the rut's the rut.
yeah.
But
That's just fun. I always save
yeah,
a tag for the rut. If I were to shoot one early bow season or something, once in a while, I won't hardly hunt them again till the rut because I'm not going to
yeah,
miss the rut. That's what I
yeah.
live for. I live for the month of November.
Yep, yep. I mean, if you're a hunter, you know what we're saying. But if
Yeah,
not, then the rut is a peak time for deer movement. They're really lethargic. They don't pay attention. And I'm talking about the males. They're just bonkers, really.
There was
I mean,
wild. Yeah.
yeah, there ain't
That
no
that's
telling
that
what
one
you'll see.
opportunity you got to make that big buck slip up that hadn't slipped up all year.
Exactly,
He's real likely to
exactly.
slip up then. And then
Yeah.
I'll say too, another time that a lot of people miss out on. A lot of them gung ho, they'll get out there when it's hot, early season and things. A lot of deer get shot. Then people hunt the rut a lot. Obviously that's when most of the deer get shot.
Hmm.
But some of the biggest deer I've ever shot, and some of the, like my daughter's biggest deer, for example,
Hmm.
came at the very, very end of the season. Matter of fact, her biggest deer and my biggest deer, I tell this all the time, I speak in seminars or something, but we both have killed our biggest deer to date on the last day of deer season. So a lot
Really?
of times those old bucks, they have battled the other deer, they battled the hunters, they battled the odds. Now they're back a little bit more patternable. He's let his
Hmm.
guard down a little bit. He's tired and wore down, and a lot of times that last few weeks of the season here in Tennessee can be some of the very best deer hunting there is.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all.
So,
I've
do
seen
you
it.
hunt cedars of Lebanon up there?
Oh yeah, I grew up just right outside of the park there. My parents still live there, but I grew up over in Gladeville, and
Right.
have hunted Cedars 11 and grew up. Shot my first ever turkeys in Cedars 11. Probably my first five or more turkeys came out of Cedars 11.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
that's awesome. That because that's when my granddaddy, he if he was hunting in the Nashville area, that's where he would go was Cedar or Lebanon. But he also had a little cabin and stuff on in Paris, Tennessee, right on the Kentucky Lake. So we would all year round we were going up to the cabin and we were either
Yeah,
fishing or hunting, and so but uh, I mean he had with how the deer and stuff in the with the land between the lakes and
yeah,
I don't think that he ever brought a deer out of there. I think he was just more or less trying to get away from his wife.
yeah.
So
It's
Now I got a
LVL
question.
is a special place to me. I've hunted LVL. This will be my 33rd year, I guess, hunting in there. And we've done a lot of filming in there. We take the kids in there every year now. That's a big block of land, and
it is.
there are a lot of deer there and a lot of quality deer, but it is not an easy hunt. It's
Yeah.
you've really got to kind of lock in on them. There are gun tags for just a couple of days out of the year, but it's mainly foot access only, archery only.
Yeah.
And a lot of your trophy guys, what do they ask for? Foot access only,
Yep.
archery only. That's what it
Yep.
is. It's one buck, archery, foot traffic.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it can be a magical place, but it's not an easy hunt. It's a very fun hunt though.
Now I've got to ask you. Have you dabbled any in before we get off here? Have you dabbled any in the city hunts?
In the what now?
The city, like the outskirts of Nashville, or maybe even in
Like
Nashville.
city hunting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have. I have some now, not to the extent like some of the like you see on YouTube somewhere where they're shooting them,
Yeah.
beside the stop signs or whatever. But yeah, because there's so much development now here in Middle Tennessee, most of the lands we hunt. I mean, we hunt some places. I've got a buddy who shoots multiple deer every year on 4 acres.
Hmm.
But most of the places we hunt are just 20 acres to, you may get a big block and have 100 acres.
Yeah.
But the majority around town here, you're going to have guys hunting on 5 acres here and 7 acres there and so on. And they're in town, and these deer are walking between subdivision to subdivision and living behind Walmart, or whatever.
Hmm.
So a lot of the deer that we hunt now are uh, what I guess I might call city deer.
Yeah.
And it is a different game. It is totally different. So when
Yeah.
you go somewhere like Land Between the Lakes, for example, that is a totally different animal there than
Yeah.
here because these deer are so adapted to humans. There's not a deer I'm here in Wilson County. I mean, I don't believe there's deer around here that hadn't interacted with a human this week, probably at some point. He's at
Yeah,
least
really.
smelled them or heard them or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Now we got a question from the traveling fisherman. He says, "Favorite state you have fished in?"
Hands down for me, Louisiana.
Louisiana.
I'm a Tennessee boy 100% through and through, but if I had to leave here tomorrow, I'm going straight down to the bayou as quick as I can get there.
now,
I'm
are you
coming with you.
crappie
I'm
fishing?
coming with you.
It's just, you can, there's great hunting there also.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time down there in an area called the Venetian Isles. It's
Mhm.
about 30 minutes out of New Orleans. And we go down there a couple times a year sometimes, but we go down there usually for 10 days, for example, in October in a row. And we'll fish all 10 days. And you can catch anything from a largemouth or a crappie to a redfish and a shark. I mean,
Yeah.
it is absolutely limitless. And where our dock is there, just as an example, you can literally there's 1.2 million acres of water that is connected and comes back to where the dock sits. Um,
God.
so it's just a magical place to me. I love the
Yeah.
redfish. I love speckled trout. I love sheep's head. And then so for me, if it's not here, it's Louisiana. Now I've not fished. I've fished most of your southern states, all your southern coast, and things like that. And it's certainly my top choice among those. Now, I've
Yeah.
not traveled the entire country much, so that's out of the 10 or 12 states I fish, I would take Louisiana.
We got another question that it's going back to crappie fishing.
Okay.
Says is does crappie fish do they relate to current as what bass do on a river system?
Um, they can if they're river system crappie, if they're in a consistently flowing body of water. But as per typically, no, they more so relate to structure and sunlight and water temperatures. Sunlight's a really big one for crappie because of the way their eyes are positioned. But really, they're more so going to relate to structure and certain temperatures of water. They don't want to be in too warm of water unless they're, of course, in a body of water that's just that warm. They're still going
Right.
to go to the coolest part of that body of water that they can comfortably go to most of the time. But now you have crappie that do live in river systems. And a lot of times when you get in those heavy current flows, they will actually try to get in the backside of that and get out of that current just a little bit and catch bait, coming through there. So
Yeah.
they can somewhat, but it is nothing like a bass, the way that a bass relates to
Yeah.
current.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question says, I live on a highland reservoir. What is the best way to find the thermocline?
So there are some graphs out there that if you look on the graph and you have the sensitivity right, you can find that thermocline on the graph. You'll have to look for a line. It's so hard to just explain without having it pulled
Yeah.
up on the screen and showing you. But you can typically find that thermocline on a graph if you look. Also, the fish will tell you if you've got a bunch of fish under you, especially white bass, hybrid, something like that. A lot of times they'll tell you because it'll almost
Yeah.
look like there's a wall underneath them. They're not going below that. And if you drop a bait below that, it's dead. It's going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, almost instantly. So you'll learn a lot of times when we're fishing, like Percy Priest is an example. I do a lot of hybrid fishing there with live bait. So if we're looking on the graph and it appears the thermocline is 17 or 18 feet, and we're dropping our lines down, let's say we drop on 20 feet, well, that bait is going to die almost instantly. And so we'll know, all right, we're going to drop the next line. A lot of times we use a line counter in my buddy's boat. So we might drop it 14 feet and then realize that bait's down there just jumping around all over the place, still live, very lively, and just that literal difference in 2 or 3 feet will be all the difference in the world in keeping that bait alive or not. And so if you're
Yeah.
using live bait, you can find the thermocline like that a lot of times, just using different depths and figuring out where your bait stays lively. If you drop
Yeah.
them below that thermocline, they're done. I don't care if it's the liveliest skipjack you got in the boat.
Yeah, because and usually how like if I'm with on Chickamauga, we haven't had it hardly any current this year, and so there has been times that we have had a thermocline on Chickamauga. Usually we do not have a thermocline, But
Right. Whereas Highland Reservoir, like that person speaking, there's not always, but there's basically always a thermocline.
right. But I will just go to my down scan, and you can tell because you'll see the bottom, and then like let's say you're in 30 foot of water, but then like you'll see like a haze going across that
Yeah.
maybe that it may go up to 20 foot. The haze is at 20 foot all the way, and that's how another way you can tell. But then I know with bass, they will stay right there at that thermocline,
On it. Yeah.
and because what they'll do is they'll actually will go down below the thermocline for a little bit because, and I didn't realize this until I seen a video that how much different the water temperature is from above the thermocline to
Yeah.
below. And the video that I seen, like it had, let's say that it was 86, uh, 86 degrees at the surface. And then they went another 5 foot and it dropped to maybe 84. And then it got down to another 5 foot and it went to 83. And then when it got to right above the thermocline, let's say it was 78 degrees. But then once they dropped that thermometer below the thermocline, it went down to 60, like 67 degrees, and it was that much cooler.
Yeah.
And then it made sense, like especially like them bigger bass, they want to try to stay in that cooler water, but they will, you'll see them right there on it, that
Yeah.
thermocline, and they
And
will.
they can spend time under it. I mean, like you
Right,
said, they
right.
can go down under it. Now, like a thread fin shad, for example, that you've already run a hook through, he's not going to live under it,
No,
But that
because
bass
it
can sit down there under it.
because it, and the main thing about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just because it's just the lack of oxygen, correct?
That's correct. So there's just not enough oxygen to support um, much of a lifestyle, I guess is the best way to put it. He can sit down there and rest and kind of be dormant in that water, but you're not very likely to see him trying to chase bait around, for example, or
Right,
something
right.
like that. He's just
Yeah.
usually going to kind of be in a resting mode.
Yeah. Um, we have another question that says, "What is your opinion the pros and cons of forward-facing sonar?"
Um, how did I know that was going to come up at some point? So
Usually somebody will say
all
something.
right, we'll look at the pros. All right, so the pros for me is this: the forward-facing sonar has taught us a lot about fish.
A
Okay,
lot.
Mm-hmm.
it has taught us many things. Like I mentioned earlier, how for all my life I've thrown at these stumps and I've known, well, there's nothing else biting. I'm gonna go to the next stump. Well, a guy with forward-facing sonar knows there's 60 fish down there. There's just no more of them biting.
Right.
It teaches us a lot about things like that. It teaches us about how hybrid, for example, will lay dormant towards the bottom of the lake and not eat anything. You can hit him in between the eyes with a weight sometimes. He won't eat anything. But when his buddy comes by 8 foot off the bottom, he'll eat anything that comes near him. So it does teach a lot. It's very educational. Um, I think it helps maybe it will certainly help you find fish faster if you're looking at
Yeah.
it from a standpoint of that. I mean, there are definitely advantages. When it comes to disadvantages, I mean, it's biologically speaking, I think it's eventually going to have some impact on a couple of our species. I don't really think it's going to have much impact on most of them. So I don't think it's necessarily things like that. You're going to see some regulations change, but what the
Yeah.
biggest negative I see is that a lot of times our youth now, for example, they are amazing on these things, and I mean, I don't take anything from them. I've interviewed so many of these kids, and they are absolute anglers and love this just like we do. But I feel like a lot of times they miss the whys. The why was that fish there? What
Yeah.
why is he there this time of year? I think it's a lot of that. I think the same thing's missed in deer hunting now. Like for example, like with these game cameras, I don't think youth are learning that much about deer sign and movement and stuff. But I think that would be one negative to it. And then something I see a lot with some of my even closest friends that have gotten it. You'll see say an angler that has fished for 40 years, 50 years, and they're consistently catching crappie or bass or whatever it is they like to fish for, and then they'll go get a live scope or a forward facing. It don't have to be live scope, but forward facing, and it's like all of a sudden they forget how to fish.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they just all of a sudden they just immediately rely on that forward facing, and a lot of times they don't think about how they fished the 40 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that it's used as a tool. It's just another tool in your
It is.
toolbox, and if you use it that way, it can be very advantageous. But if you just completely rely on it and forget about the 30 years or 20 years, whatever it is, of fishing knowledge that you've gained, I think it can be a negative in that case too. And I've seen that multiple times.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Pappy and I tell people is that it's just a tool. People didn't
It
like
is.
the side scan when it came out. They thought that was cheating. And which, you're seeing on forward facing sonar, you're seeing it all live, and you could pull up to a stump or a dock, drop that in, and you can look and be like, yes, there's one there. No, it
Yeah.
helps. It's a tool to be able to where you can fish that area or you can, to get out. But it is. I've learned so much. What we grew up, learning about fish, forward facing sonar has kind of debunked a lot of that, what we thought fish
Yeah.
done. And so, because here's an example of what I'm fishing a ledge that has a point coming out of a creek on Chickamauga. And I I'm catching good sized bass off of this point, but it's very sporadic. Well, I got to where I've seen these bass swimming. They're off of the ledge and off the point. They swim around. They actually made a circle around my boat, and it's just a slow circle coming around the boat. But when they came back up to the lip of that ledge and when I was wanting to throw it as they were coming up to that ledge, and I'm wanting to bring it back, that bait back when they were coming up on that ledge. And that's the only time I was getting them to hit. And when they were swimming around, I could throw at them all day long. They would not even look at it, would not even think nothing about it. But once it was something about coming back up on that ledge that it turned them on to where it's time to eat. And you could just sit there and just watch them as they were coming, and by the time they come back on that ledge, you could throw your jig up there and bring it on, and then you knew you was getting a hit. And so it's just stuff like that of what we had thought. We thought that they had just kind of bass would sit up on that ledge and just kind of stay dormant, like you were saying. But actuality, they were constantly moving, and by the time they got to that point, that's when they were hitting. That was the only place that they were hitting, and I've seen it multiple times with doing that. That it's only that maybe that only 20-yard stretch, and when they're coming in, that they're hitting in that little 20-yard stretch. And so, it's just a tool. You learn, and you can see, you can tell if you're looking at it and watching the forward facing sonar enough and looking at the screen, you can tell by how a fish swims if it's a bass or a catfish or whatever. And it's you can learn so much again as a tool, not the fact. People think, well, you get it on your boat and they see Jacob Wheeler out here using it, and that he's just plucking these fish left and right. And that's because he's had thousands of hours looking at that screen.
Right.
And so,
It becomes a skill just like any other skill in fishing. I mean,
yeah,
that's why the youth are taking off in it so well. I mean, just like with
yeah, yeah. And Pappy, I mean, he's 100% right that I think kind of the downside of it, the con for me would be that these younger kids are not how we grew up. We grew up beating the banks, and we knew about this, about beating the banks. That they are kind of that. I won't say all of them because there's some young kids that are hammers, and they can they can change up, and they can go and do all they can go beat the banks or go flip docks and pads and do all that. But a lot of these kids though are relying strictly on the forward facing sonar.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you can't fault them for that though. I mean,
No,
it's technology. I mean, let's face it. We went from what Atari to Nintendo to Sega to
yeah,
PlayStations to Xboxes to PCs to. I mean, everything's evolving. Everything's changing, and it's the same way in the fishing world and in the hunting world. I mean, everything's a tool, and
yeah,
and that's what I mean. And honestly, I understand that it does take away from fishing in some aspect of it. They're not really learning, but they are learning.
yeah,
They're just learning on a different skill set as to how we did. You
yeah,
know, um, but again, we're I mean, we've been out multiple times and used the forward facing sonar. I have yet seen one time where that forward facing sonar has put a fish in that boat.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because typically
It has. They
I
have
fish
not jumped in the boat when we put it in the
I
water,
fish the
have
way I fish, and it's not because of forward
they? Yeah,
facing sonar. You know what I mean? It's just it is what it is.
yeah,
Now I can look at it, and I'm just kind of like a deer in a headlight. I'm like, I've learned now. I'm learning more and more, but it's still all Greek to me.
yeah,
I'm just gonna go out there and fish. That's
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out there
Well,
and fish.
there's a question um, that Adam has commented, and and I was wanting to ask it, in which I know you can answer this question, so I'm going to ask you, and if Brandon gets back on here, then we'll ask him, and then we will wrap it up. It says, "I am new to hunting and fishing. What is the best way to learn how to read a topographical map?"
Um, and here's the thing: you can watch videos on it, and that's the simple answer, right?
Yeah,
The best way I have found to read a topographical map, other than the military, was I would compare maps. I because a topographical map, it's going to give you contours, rigid lines, and different elevations and stuff like that. So if you had something else like today's um technology, you take a topographical map and also a satellite image and also a visual image of your own, and Colin and I have
well,
talked about
Google
this.
Earth can help you with that.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm going with it,
Yeah,
satellite image. But comparing the two, that way you have a better understanding, because the thing about you can look at a topo map and you'll see the ridge, you'll see the different elevations and ridge lines and different saddles and stuff like that. But when you actually lay eyes on it, it is different. I mean, it
Yeah,
is way different because you got trees involved, you got brush, rocks. I mean, and everything is just it's just different. I mean, it's different. But if you
yeah,
take a satellite imagery with the topo map and put boots on ground after the fact, that is the best way I have found for me to be able to read a topo map. Now,
yeah,
if that's what he's talking about, then that's what I would recommend.
yeah.
Now,
Well, and
you
and you
have
know,
different ridge lines. Okay, so each line in, let's say you're looking at a ridge on a topo map, you're gonna have different cuts, angles, and ridge lines with different uh, um, elevations.
yeah,
Now you may have one that comes up and it'll come up into a draw, and obviously you're gonna have those different kind of um, of ridge lines in that draw. Um, you know, really, I mean, it's not hard, but a satellite imagery pick and boots on ground gives you a better
yeah.
understanding of it. It
Well,
truly does, and I'm not trying to escape away from the question, but to
yeah.
me, that was the best way for me to learn. And
Well,
time,
and
time.
I mean the traveler fisherman, I mean he says with your eyes, LOL, and he was saying it jokingly, but I mean he's really, I mean
He's right.
it's right. I mean
Yeah.
because having you know you explained it a couple years ago to me, and and I really did not think nothing about it. I mean, because again, I'm not a big hunter, and you are, and the military and stuff, like you've learned how to read them and stuff, but like you you were we were in eastern Kentucky somewhere, and you were like, man, look at this, and look at this draw coming down, and you're like, and so and I can't remember how it kind of got started, but you were like, and you were saying, man, that all you have to do, like if you're on the lake, uh, you're
Oh
good, brother, you're
yeah.
good. Let's
Guys, I
see,
had to get in my truck. Let me get over and get pulled over. My
you're
phone
good, you're
died,
good.
and I didn't have no
We
charger
got
in my office.
um, so we got one more or two more questions for you, and then we'll let you go, brother. Um, we have a question, and Pappy had answered it, but I was wanting to ask you on it. Um, Says, I am new to hunting and fishing. What is the best way to learn how to read a topographical map?
Oh wow, that's a great question. What I look for on a map like that, I'm about to get stopped here, guys. And I'll be able to look at you again.
You're
Uh,
good.
what I like to look for on a map like that is I like to look for a saddle. Um, Saddles are big if you're hunting woods. So I'm also looking for areas where we've got a. I'll get you where you can see me now. Also like to use them to find areas where, say, there's a big flat for a long period of time across a big hardwood ridge or something like that. Learning how to read them, really and truly, the best thing to do, and YouTube is our best friend. But get out there and find videos and written literature and things like that about it. Some people are absolute geniuses at topographical maps. My buddy Wes Stone is probably one of the best I've ever known at reading them, and I talk to him back and forth about them a lot. But one of the biggest things I look for is a saddle, especially if I'm hunting hardwood ridges.
Mhm.
I'm looking for a saddle or a large flat that connects two high points. So once you learn
Yeah.
how to read the high points, is one of the biggest things to do. And then I'm looking for that big flat somewhere in among all those high points.
Yeah. So, hopefully, Adam, that answers your question. And if you have any more questions, in the description of the podcast tonight, um, has all of Brandon's social media links and stuff. And if you just go to them, click on them, make sure you hit that like and follow and subscribe on it. But then you can send him a message, and I'm sure he will.
Anytime.
He'll
Yeah, anytime.
so. Um, but Pappy, we got one last question. You know that we ask every time or every week, and do you mind asking it?
Absolutely. First, Brandon, it's been an honor, man. I've enjoyed talking to you, listening to you, your knowledge, man, I appreciate everything that you've done. And coming on the podcast and enlighten us on all your knowledge that you have enlightened us with. But now, if there was one person that you could fish or hunt with, and you can combine them, either or, whether they're still with us or not, who would that person be and why?
I think I would probably choose to hunt with Fred Bear if I had to choose someone that is passed before us. I think he was probably one of the most knowledgeable,
Mm,
not only in the woods and the outdoors, but also in life. Fred Bear gave a lot
mhm.
of great just life advice. I think he would have been a great person to hunt with. And then that's in the woods, of course. If I was going to go fish, I guess, or hunt with someone that's still around right now, I believe I would probably go with Hank Parker.
Oh
Ooh, that's
yeah,
a good one.
yeah.
That's a good one. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Both
and
of them
just the
are.
stories you could learn from old Hank is I don't know if I had him out on the boat, I don't know if I would even fish. I think I'd just sit there and just listen to him tell
Listen,
stories.
yeah, I just it
Hey,
was
I'm,
just
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you if I got an old timer with me that has and their little old eyes has seen the things that they've seen in the woods or on the lake or a river or a reservoir. Man, I'm locked in on them. That's that's
yeah,
that's just how I am, though.
Yeah,
That's just how I am because the knowledge that they've got, through
oh yeah.
seeing and doing everything that they've done.
yeah,
Sometimes it's best just sit back and be quiet and
You
yeah.
learn.
got that right. You
That's
got
true.
that right.
So, Brandon, man, brother, man, we appreciate you coming on,
Yeah,
and
Absolutely.
so hopefully here sometime soon we can hop in the boat and go wet a line, and uh, that would be enjoyable.
I would love to, and maybe get you guys down here in Nashville one night down at Channel Five, and I can sit there and drill you guys with some questions for a while.
Heck
Hey, I'm
We'll
yeah,
I'm
keep
looking forward
trolls.
to it. I'm
heck yeah.
looking forward to it.
Love to
So,
have y'all sometime.
so guys, next week we have a local bait maker. Randy with Lurch's Lures is coming on. He makes some phenomenal baits as they eat from freshwater to saltwater. Even though he's from the Chattanooga area, he makes some uh, some killer saltwater baits. He actually has, and we'll talk to him about. He takes a sea-doo out. I think the last time I talked to him, he said he was taking a sea-doo out 60 miles to go do some deep sea fishing off a sea-doo, and I told him that
Wow.
he is nuts. But we're
I
gonna be
agree.
talking. You agree?
Yeah, that'd be a blast, but I don't know that I would do it.
Nah, but we're gonna have him on. We're gonna talk to him about the freshwater baits and the saltwater baits that he does, and we've got to ask him about going taking a sea-doo out 60 miles out just to go catch some fish when it don't make no sense when you can just go right out here and just go catch some fish. but um but guys, we appreciate you staying on this long, and we will we'll see you next week. But guys, remember, God loves you as if you were the only person in this world to love, and we will see you next week, guys.
Thank you, guys.
See